if you talk about the majority sort of sense statistically around the world, of course, there are more able people than are disabled. Therefore, there are more fearful people than they are not. So, because the able people are very easily fearful of those that are disabled. And unless you are facilitating a particular sort of context, like you said, in Access or CandoCo, the rest of us really wouldn't know what to do. So this really newly appointed sort of an artistic director of Axis, and also your vast experiences from your past journeys as both artist as well as person, and that is the empowerment aspect of dancers coming into companies and having that extra bit to go for, right? So, for example, a dancer coming into Axis would most probably already sort of be disabled in one way or another. How do they then find more empowerment, and what is that empowerment going to be when you're already going to sort of, let's say, one of the most famous, if not the most famous company for disabled dancers? What is the next level for them? What is the next sort of trajectory? What is the next sort of goal for them when it comes to becoming an artist for the disabled bodies and disabled dancers?
I think there is an issue in the dance field, and this is what we were talking about at the beginning, the idea of what a dancer is. I think when dancers come to Access, for instance, there is already a setup that is there in order to make them successful and being an artist and being a dancer. I think there is, we have things in place, like, let's say, for instance, we have PT happening for all the dancers. So they get physical therapy if they get injuries or anything like that. Or we have teachers and we have a rehearsal director who understands the language and knows how to be inclusive in the language. So the setup when they come to take a ballet class with us, for instance, or a contemporary dance class with us, is that our rehearsal director already knows not to say, oh, let's run there. Instead, we say, let's move there. So the language is already inclusive. So when you come to a company like Axis, all these things are already set up. And you feel like you belong right away. You don't have to make the effort of asking for this or for that. Yes, sometimes you do, because we're all humans and we're very specific to our own selves. We should not generalize every single disability either, which is dangerous too. So if you need something specific, you're like, hey, I need a ASL interpreter for this panel we do. Okay, great, we provide it, and there you have it. I think the issue in the bigger field of dance is that all these things are not ever thought about. So if a dancer from Axis wants to go to another company that is not traditionally being inclusive for artists with disabilities, then that's a problem, because they see it as, oh, I need to do more work. I need to provide more. And most companies don't want to do it, to tell you the truth. Most companies are not interested in doing it because it's, sometimes, yes, you have to put more money and you have to put more work into it. And so the trajectory for a dancer that might start with us that is disabled, and I would say more physically disabled, because if it's an invisible disability, you can hide it and you can make it fit within what is the traditional way of what is a dancer. So if you have somebody who is physically disabled, for instance, like me, or the dancers that use wheelchairs, is very, very difficult, if not almost impossible, to go and dance for another company that has not traditionally been inclusive or integrated in that sense, which is a pity, because there's so much talent out there that is just, they have no opportunities, and it's so sad. I see them every day. I've seen myself in them. I talk to people every day and they're like, I want to do something, but where do I do it? And we at Access and other companies, of course, we have a limit of how many dancers we can hire. And we have a very limited budget too. It's difficult to know what is the trajectory For instance, for a dancer who has dyslexia, will be easier in a sense because they can figure out what are their tools and their mechanisms to adapt to the situation they're at a lot easier than a dancer who uses crutches or a wheelchair.